Following video is brought to you by the Boston Sports Entertainment Network. Please consider liking and subscribing for more Boston sports content.
I got the Boston Celtics going to the final.
I got them winning without.
It's time to represent your city. Put your hands up. Cali, you know we do it for Boston. Hey, ain't nobody gonna like Boston. Yeah, hey, can't nobody do it like Boston. Where the legends get made, where the banners get raised, bright lights, big stage. Boston. All the fire we bring in a city full of rings, it's a beautiful thing out in Boston. And you ain't hard like that, you don't put it on the line with your squad like that. That's right, Boston. All we do is win like cigars in the gym, and we at it again. I say, Beantown, what's up? What's up? 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 Feel the energy shift, now we jumping at the gym. Represent, showing out how we ball above the rim. Larry Legend, 86, to the truth in 08. Cement your name with the all-time greats. Tomato 18 in the Raptors. Celtic green, only green that matters. It's about that time. Ain't another city that's louder than mine. Always gonna shine with the game on the line. What you think was gonna happen, man? That's how we do it in Boston. Ain't nobody gonna like Boston. Yeah. Can't nobody do it like Boston.
All right. Welcome into this episode of the Dynasty Proud podcast, brought to you as always by BSEN. I'm Ryan at 19_loading. We've got the usual crew here with us, with my guy Alex alongside at Alex Zachary 305. We're coming to you live on this Tuesday, February 18th, just after All-Star weekend in the NBA out in San Francisco. The Celtics are sitting right now at 39-16. Alex, I'll obviously shoot it over to you in a second, but I pointed this out on Twitter right before the All-Star break as well, after they finished their last game. They're just 4 games behind the pace that they were on last year. At the break, they were 43-12. Now they're 39-16. And so for all the talk and all the drama that have been going on with the Celtics and, people talking about whether they should shake up the lineups or make a trade or whatever, I think it's pretty impressive that they ended up in the spot that they're in. But what did you see leading into the All-Star break with those last few games?
Well, what I saw was, especially with guys being out, Drew being out for, several games before, and then Jalen being out a couple of games, it really was on Tatum to just kind of take over. And then it was great to see that him really step up. Like, I was at the game in Miami, and in the first quarter, he only had 2 points. And then he just decided at that point, it's like, I'm the man out here, and I can just take over. Like, and that's a big thing that was kind of missing in the games they were losing, which actually with mostly a full lineup, is there's so many, like, mouths to feed, so to speak, and everyone being healthy, that like Tatum a lot of times, like if, or Jalen, if their shot wasn't falling earlier, they would just defer to the other guys. Whereas if you look at the last few games where they didn't really have that option, Tatum struggles early. He's like, okay, well, I gotta find it. I gotta get it going because I'm the man out here right now. So for all the early talk of the Celtics demise or people that, badly want to see it spoken way too soon, got off to a hot start. Yeah, I mean, it's human nature. Like end of December, a little bit of January, like you're going to be bored. It's, the dog days of the season. It's cold. You're looking forward to the playoffs. Like the excitement of the new season is kind of wearing out. So, I mean, it's human nature that happened, but they're right where they should be. Like may not catch Cleveland, almost definitely going to end up in the 2-3 spot, hopefully in the number 2 spot. The Knicks have a tough remaining schedule from here on out. And you just watch the head-to-head matchups with the Knicks. Like we just look like we're on a different level than that team. So I'm not really worried. I'd actually love to get them in round 2. Who knows what they'll even have left with Tibbs playing those guys 40-plus minutes every single night. But I like where the Celtics are at. I think, anyone expecting them to go like 82-0 or to be on last year's pace, like it's hard to have the same motivation. They had something to prove last year, especially with the new team. They don't have those same expectations. They realize this year the only thing that matters is what happens in the postseason. So there's nothing they can prove during the season. Whether they went 73-9 or not, like it didn't really matter. It matters if they go back-to-back. So, just continue playing the right way, find guys their rhythm, end up in the postseason healthy. That's what matters.
Yeah, and just to recap the games going into the All-Star break, like we were talking about, they took down the Cavs and the Sixers. They had the one loss to the Mavericks, who lost Anthony Davis, and it was kind of like just Kyrie. After that, they ripped off 3 straight wins against the Knicks, Heat, and Spurs. And going into the All-Star break, they were basically on a 7-1 run, or 7-1 is what I meant. And like I said before, there was all this chatter about like, what do they need to do? Do they need to make a move? Do they need to do this or that? And they end up going on that stretch and just prove again that, as you said, like to me, they're still the team to beat in the East,
Oh, absolutely.
despite not holding the 1 seed right now. I, as I've said many times on the podcast before, I still just don't fully trust Cleveland. I know they added DeAndre Hunter from the Hawks too. They still just really don't scare me in a 7-game series. And maybe that's naive of me, but like I'm fairly confident that that would be a pretty much probably a 6-game series. Like I still don't think Cleveland has the horses, and I don't know. I could be proven wrong. That's happened many times before in my life, but I don't see it with Cleveland beating the Celtics in a 7-game series. I don't know about you.
I don't see Cleveland or New York, and a lot of it's the similarities. Like both of them are almost kind of built in a similar way of us. We're just a better version of them. And I think the big thing is we have nobody you can attack defensively. Like if you watch us against the Knicks, everything was switched on to either Cat or Jalen Brunson. They would find one of them and switch them in pick and roll, and then they would just cook them. And then if you look at the Cavs, you have Donovan Mitchell, you have Darius Garland. Like there's nobody on the Celtics that you're gonna like, okay, this is the matchup. Like yeah, they'll see Hauser, they'll see Pritchard. Those aren't guys that are gonna play huge minutes anyways. And, they'll see them transparently like, oh, white guy like that, not like big physically imposing person, like, they're going to go at him, but they hold their own. But we don't really have, in our top 6, like anybody you can go at. I look at those teams and, defensively, like I feel like we can get a bucket whenever we want to. And yeah, they have scorers on that team, but I don't think either of those teams worry me. I think the team, and I don't think they're really a worry, but like a team like Milwaukee, if they were healthy and they were right with Dame, with Giannis, I think less so now that they don't have Middleton. Like, yes, the best availability is availability, and they have Kuzma, who's much more available. Kyle Kuzma's not the play Chris Middleton is when they're both healthy. So I think they actually took a step back. Now, Kyle Kuzma's more likely to be playing than Chris Middleton, so having that guy there versus potentially not having one is huge. But I just don't look at any team in the East as a real threat. Like, yes, it may not be the cakewalk it was last year, even if we have a healthy Porzingis. I seriously don't think any team takes us to a game 7. Now, injuries can change that. Things can happen, so that's not written in stone. But I don't see any team in the East that really scares me, that it's like, oh, man, like we need to avoid that team. The only one you can even look at, and I think this team's a dysfunctional mess, and so they're not even to worry about, is you could talk yourself into in the first round, like, okay, maybe I don't want to see Philly round 1, because that team, when healthy, should not be a 7 or 8 team. But they're dog crap because no one can
11 right now. So
they're 11 right now, but they can't. Yeah, they can't seem to keep anybody on the floor. But like, let's say you get a series where it's Joel's somewhat healthy, Paul George is healthy, Maxey, like that's a potentially 6-game first round series that like you should have no business taking a team like that. But at the same aspect, I think they may take a Philly series seriously. Just because of the names that are on the other side where, sorry, I know you're in Atlanta, but a couple years ago when they drew the Hawks first round and everyone was excited because like, yes, we don't have Miami first round, we have the Hawks. And the Celtics definitely felt like that too. And they just went through the motions and like almost fucked around and went into a 7th game against that team. If it wasn't for Tatum and Brown closing out game 6, like is like the last year why I wanted the Heat, because I knew they would take them seriously. Like all the excuses of Jimmy Butler not playing, that wouldn't have changed anything in that series. But I want a team that they'll take seriously. I'm trying to think of who that would be and who that wouldn't be. Like, if Chicago was somehow still in there, I don't think they take them seriously, but I don't think they're that good at all, especially in a playoff series. Like, that's not going to happen. Atlanta, they lost Jalen Johnson now. Maybe Karis LeVert, they get something out of it. I mean, he's not DeAndre Hunter, but to go back to your Cavs reference, people are talking about DeAndre Hunter like this 3-and-D stopper. Like, he's not that type of defensive player. He's an upgrade offensively, but Karis LeVert is a high ceiling offensively as well. He's just not consistent. I think DeAndre Hunter is a more consistent version of him. But I don't think DeAndre Hunter like moves the needle that much. Like I think they're behind us. I think he's a nice player. I don't think them or the Knicks take us past 6, short of something like unforeseen happening.
No, Hunter is more than what they had before, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I think they're like more of a threat, if that makes any sense. Like I realize that they like, yes, their roster probably improved, but like I don't necessarily think it changed the likely outcome, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The only game going back before the All-Star break, the only game they probably shouldn't have lost is that Mavericks game. Obviously, it's not like it was a back-to-back, and obviously don't have Luka anymore. That's probably a team that Celtics should beat 9 times out of 10, if not more.
That's why they lost. That's why they lost, because there was no Luka, and once they rolled 80 out, you knew that was a game that they were going to have a CTE game, and they're not taking it serious. Like, you knew that, and then of course people make their observations like, "Oh, well, you lost to the Mavericks without Luka or without AD, so that must be who you are." But then they play the Knicks, at full strength and kick the crap out of them, and the Cavs at full strength and beat them. So when they care, they can flip the switch.
And that's regular season basketball, right? I mean, teams lose to teams they shouldn't lose to all the time. But you take that game out, which you can't do. But if you do, if they had won that game, they'd be on an 8-game win streak going into the All-Star break, which would have been something to see. That's for sure. But anyway, state of the team in general at the break. I wanted to bring up some numbers that I think might surprise people. Just rankings in the league, not actually. Don't have to talk about the actual statistics and like how much they actually matter. But the Celtics are the second best team in the league as far as turning the ball over, 11.4 per game, behind only OKC. Second best in the league in opponent's field goal percentage, again trailing only OKC. Fifth in opponent 3-point percentage. Fifth in blocks. And fourth in the league in opponents' points per game. The defense was a big talking point and kind of has been that they just have had some games where they give up way too many points, or it just doesn't look the same as it always has. But we're now at a point where we've got a really solid sample size of 55 games, and they are elite on defense. Whether it looks that way or not, they are on paper. Statistically. So, and again, like sometimes numbers do lie. That doesn't always tell the whole story. And the other thing I don't love is that they are 28th in steals and only 17th in assists per game as a team. But they do have enough individual scoring talent that they don't necessarily need to create extra possessions, and they can always get away with unassisted scoring, even though they're perfectly capable of doing it the other way and passing the ball around and playing, Missoula ball too. But I just think those were interesting numbers that I thought stood out to me, that they look so good defensively when people have said that they don't.
And that's the biggest thing as far as flipping the switch. Like, yes, some nights your shot's just not going to fall. Like, you could be locked in. It's like you have one of those nights where the whole team just can't hit a shot. You're going to have that. But defensively is effort. And that's the biggest flip the switch. Like, we have great individual defenders and obviously team defense as well, that as long as they're locked in come playoff time, like, yeah, you're not going to win every game. Sometimes, like, they're going to hit, other teams going to hit tough shots. You're just going to miss your wide open layups or wide open threes. Like, you'll have nights like that. But 4 out of 7 in the series with the talent that we have, with the capable defenders that we have, I just don't see it, at least not in the East from anything I can see. And so, I mean, the team looks great right now. As reference, like, the Dallas game, like, you have throwaway games like that all the time. And, the Toronto game at Toronto going back, like the Atlanta games, like, it's a respect the opponent thing. You wish they wouldn't do it, but you have no reason to not trust them when it matters at this moment, because they've gone through it. They've gone through, all the hurdles and all the trials and tribulations, and then winning the title with the ease that they did. So you have no reason to think that they won't do that. I want to knock on wood right now, because Porzingis has been relatively healthy lately. Yeah, so all thoughts and prayers for all our viewers now. But I mean, he changes everything offensively. Actually, the one thing that hasn't worked is when they try to really focus in on his offense, like when they're just like pushing it for him. That's when we've been the least successful. But he's a great guy, bailout bucket, and just his size and the length and like the way he extends the floor and his rim presence and shot blocking by the rim. Just having him out there, his physical presence changes a lot for us, even if he's not physically doing anything. So I love where the team is at. Spoiler alert, they're going to lose a couple of games between now and the end of the season. That'll probably piss you off. That'll have people talking about, oh my God, they lost to so-and-so without so-and-so, and that's why they're not going to win the championship, and that's why they're frauds. And it doesn't matter. Like, for example, the power rankings came out today, and they're second. They're above the Cavs. And every other comment is, why are the Celtics above the Cavs? And then I just literally wrote in the comment, I'm like, because anybody with 2 eyes can tell that they're actually better. And then, most people agree. Some people are like, well, why don't they have a better record than? I'm like, it doesn't work like that. The Utah Jazz had the best record before. The Atlanta Hawks, back in the day had the best record. Like, best record doesn't always mean anything. And you can also look at the product. It's like, yes, sometimes teams win, but it's how they're winning. And it's like, you can tell if it'll translate to postseason success. Now, the Cavs, in the last 2 postseasons, they lost in 5 in round 1 to the Knicks 2 years ago. They lost in 5 to us last year. I don't see any reason, like, everyone's talking about, like, if we get to the conference finals, I think they have to get there first. Like, yes, I think whoever they play in round one, they probably won't overlook anybody, and I think they'll get through round one. Round two, right now, they're looking at a tough Indiana team or a tough Milwaukee team. Like, those teams are not pushovers. There's no guarantee they get through those teams. No, I think they probably will, but there's no guarantee of that, you know? So they have something to prove. We don't.
And isn't there? I know we were just crapping on Philadelphia a little while ago, and I was joking they might not even make the playoffs. But isn't there also the chance that they sneak into the play-in, end up playing the Cavs, and it's round one, and I don't know, Cleveland falls asleep, Joel Embiid decides to wake up for a playoff series for once, and they end up beating them as a play-in team? Like I think that's
it would be really tough to see me beating them 4 times out of 7, but if you're saying, Joel Embiid or Paul George are like the best players in the series or 2 of the best 3, I'm like, it's hard to say that that's not going to happen. If they're all fully healthy, like those 3 players, Joel Embiid's the best of those 3 players. It's just, he's never fully healthy and he's never in shape. But like Joel Embiid being the best player in a playoff series, I mean, we haven't really seen it, to be honest, but like, there's no reason a guy that's been the MVP couldn't be that,
But I don't think it's even impossible take Embiid out of it. I don't even think it's impossible for Maxey and Paul George to beat them. For the 2 of them, like I think they could do that. And
yeah, that would be a mismatch. I think the Celtics would overpower them, and that actually would probably have the Celtics like, the meme where it's like laying back in the seat, then sitting up playing video games. Yeah. Like that would be the Celtics round 1 against Philly, where like I mentioned, a Chicago or Atlanta, they may not do that. They may almost overlook them and go through the motions and lose a game they shouldn't, probably at home, before they win the series in 5. But yeah, I mean, Cleveland has a lot more on the line this year. I know, like every year for the Celtics, it's like if they don't win, it's a big failure. But like, why is that not the same thing for the Cavs right now or for Oklahoma City? I'm like, you have teams that have been around for a little bit. Like these aren't rookies. Like they should have the same expectations. And I feel like it's only the Celtics that get that kind of expectation. But if Cleveland does not at least make the finals this year, or if like lose to us in like a 7-game hard-fought series, the season's a failure for them. Like not even making the conference finals, doesn't matter who they're playing. Like that's a failure of a season.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, and like you said, I think we like where the Celtics are at going into the All-Star break, and we expect big things, and we'll get into more of that.
It's crazy they've already played 55 games. Like the season's flying by.
Yeah, and because of that, also obviously we're just talking about we just had the All-Star break. I'll go ahead and admit right off the bat, I did not watch a single minute of Friday or Saturday night. Didn't care. Just did not draw me in. And historically, my favorite event has always been the dunk contest. But I am all set with Mac McClung. He is not an NBA player. It's a gimmick. It's exhausting. I want to see real players with real dunks. I want to see something creative. No one's watching the dunk contest for G Leaguers and rookies. Like, I know this is not like a new take by any means, but I do think this goes back to LeBron James. And like, he's not the singular reason that the league is the way that it is, but he's just kind of indicative of the fact that players aren't motivated in the same ways that they used to be. Like these guys just see this as a job, as a career. They don't care about fan engagement, bragging rights, or any of that. And there's like a long history of the all-time greats participating in the dunk contest or the three-point contest. Kobe, Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins, Vince Carter, Larry Bird, the list goes on and on and on. And once you hit the mid-2000s, that was all over. And the AAU culture broke in and it was done. And that's sad. And like, I don't know what you would do to fix the dunk contest or if you would just scrap it, but I'm sad to see it go the route that it has gone.
I think it's an ego thing because guys are just like, they don't want to lose. And then everyone crapped on Jaylen Brown last year. I'm like, that's the biggest star you've had in years, in like over a decade. And you see the way people treated him. Like, I'm like, so why would a superstar player want to do that and then, put their ego on the lines? And they're talking about a potential 1v1 tournament. But like at the end of the day, it's going to be the same thing. Those guys are not going to want to do it for the same reasons. No. You're going to end up getting Bobby Portis playing against frigging Andrew Wiggins in a one-on-one thing because they're the only people that will actually want to do it. So yeah, I mean, it's an ego thing in that league more than anything else. And I'd say the equivalent, I mean, Mac McClung, like, yeah, he's an exciting dunker for sure. But it's at the same time, it's like, yeah, you're right. He's not a pro ball player. It's like the equivalent of like having a guy in a home run derby that literally is like a 40-year-old like softball player that can just mash and hit home runs. But if you throw him anything out other than like a ball straight down the middle, he can't touch it. Like Pedro Serrano in Major League.
It's like having some guy come in from the Savannah Bananas to compete in the home run derby. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know. I hate that. And I'm sure he's a nice kid, but it's 3 years running now. It's like the same thing. Like he's doing
And
the same.
if anything, that should motivate people to be like, okay, someone go beat him. But the thing is, like, transparently, he's a better dunker than probably most of the people in the NBA. So, but because they're not getting anything, like if you take him out of this though, and you're just having, I mean, it wasn't just Mac McClung. Like you've had G Leaguers in almost every single year. Like you had Obi Toppin's brother, you had like Glenn Robinson the third. It wasn't just like, okay, this is a gimmick with him. Like you've had G Leaguers in everywhere. He just became like a bigger deal because he was like a sensation for this one specific thing. And people are going to just watch him. So I mean, I didn't watch any of Friday. I did watch Saturday. The skills competition was kind of whack, but then you get to the 3-point contest. Like that's the only thing you actually get stars in. So I mean that was cool to watch. And then you had the dunk contest. I mean, you're just assuming the whole time that he's going to win. Now Stephon Castle actually did put up a fight, but at the end, I mean, Mac McClung is just like that's just the one skill that he has.
Right.
So I mean, he ended up winning it. I don't know what the solution is. Like I said, I referenced the 1v1, and I don't think you're going to get a Kyrie or something like that as much as that, you'd want to see him because his ego at the end of the day, like people don't want to lose. And it's in that sport more than any other sport, like you get stars in the home run derby when you do that. Like, so I don't know what the solution is, but I did watch the All-Star game as well. I mean, I get the reference point with it. But then you had guys like you had G Leaguers playing, or G Leaguers are like rising stars playing against like, Team Shaq, which is like all the OGs of the league, and then Tatum and Brown, who have had so much success, they're basically OGs now. But I don't really know what the solution is for any of that. I guess you could make it financially incentivized, but at the same time, let's say you do that, and then you get, Jalen goes down with like a hamstring pull and he's out for 3 months because of it. Then it's like, okay, look, they shouldn't have been trying. So at the end of the day, it's like, what's the point? They just do it it's a kind of a celebration. Like you go into it knowing what it is, but it's not going to be anything you take seriously. It's not the old days, it's not the 90s. I would love the, the East versus West with the team jerseys on and guys playing for like, competitiveness. But it seemed like Wemby was the only one that really wanted to do that. God bless, because he's from like the new school here. But like he looked like really competitive, and then everybody else doesn't care.
No, 100%. And it's not even like an injury concern, I don't think. I think most of the players would want to do it because they don't want clips online of them getting crossed up and getting their ankles taken and ending up on the floor. Like nobody wants that. So I don't think the one-on-one thing would ever happen. I know it got proposed, but I don't think there's any chance that would ever get green lighted.
Peyton Pritchard win that.
I mean, that'd be something at least, but
he'd probably do it, to be honest.
But well, yeah, he might. I mean, he loves those pro-am tournaments too. So
yeah, pro-am P.
Anyway, so Sunday, this is gonna sound weird. The basketball itself, like that was great. I love the target score format and the tournament aspect of it. It wasn't always the most competitive, but it was just fun, and that's what the All-Star game is supposed to be. The basketball was great. The rest of it, completely shameful, just awful. And
I just game 5 minutes in to have a whole award ceremony for the TNT announcers. Like,
I'll get there. I'm not even there yet. I want to read to you just from a Reddit post that made the rounds on Twitter after the game. I'm sure that you saw this too. There were 42 minutes of actual basketball played over the course of 3 hours. There was an intro with ads, was 30 minutes. Pre-game talk, 10 minutes. First game, 12 minutes. The stupid Mr. Beast challenge thing, 5 minutes. The second game, 16 minutes. A musical performance for 6 minutes. The third game started, and then after just 12 points had been scored, they paused the game for this stupid Inside the NBA tribute for the TNT guys, which was another 9 minutes. And it felt longer than that because I thought it was like 30. But then the game resumed, and there were a total of 14 minutes of actual basketball. Then there was a 6-minute post-game discussion, and then there were 22 minutes of miscellaneous segments with analysts and game introductions and all this stuff. And the total with all the ads, the total of all the ads was 80 minutes. That's twice as many minutes of ads versus actual basketball. And that is just disgusting. Like half of the All-Star game was just ads. That's it. An hour and a half of my life over the course of 3 hours. And you can throw out the rest of the crap like the music and the stupid Mr. Beast and the TNT thing of 180 minutes over the course of that 3 hour show, 42 minutes of actual basketball being played. That is 23% of the broadcast. I don't know what the numbers are for a real game, but it's not that. That was
Well,
insane.
you had 48 minutes over 2.5 hours, so it's not like, but it feels different, obviously.
Right. But like that was this particular version of it. Like it was insulting. I want the league to do something about it, but I'm not going to get my hopes up.
I don't know what the solution is, to be honest.
No, I don't either. And maybe that's why there hasn't been a good one. But the other thing that I also hated that LeBron James took up a spot and chose not to play. And this is the thing that I think that he and anybody else who thinks like him needs to hear. Not that he's going to hear anything that I say on my tiny podcast, but the All-Star game isn't for you. It's for the fans. It's not about your photo op. It's not about your endorsement deal. It's not about you getting to hang out with all your buddies at the game. Like, you can show up all you want, but to force yourself into the team photos in street clothes while everyone else is getting ready to play, it's completely out of touch. And it gets to like just the bigger problem with the game, which is just that like players can be friends with each other and they don't have to hate each other like people want them to. We don't need those crazy rivalries. Like, that stuff's fun, but it's not essential. But it gets back to things like the Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving 2 max slots in the tunnel thing. Like, they treat it like it's a players association meeting, and that's not what it is. It's supposed to be a showcase for the league to the fans in order to grow the game. And it signals this like complacency and arrogance that these players have, some of them, not all of them, that are willing to treat it the way that they do. And as you said, thank God for Victor Wembanyama, because he actually tried down to the final bucket, and he was legitimately pissed when the final bucket got scored. And like I said, there are guys that do it the right way. It's not everyone, but the general attitude of the average NBA star is just apathy. And at the end of the day, I guess it's our fault as fans that like we've let them get away with that. But I was, as I said before, just kind of insulted by the whole thing.
Yeah, LeBron's always been an egomaniac, and it's always LeBron first. He could have absolutely done that and then let one of the snubs, take a spot in the All-Star game. He wasn't going to do that because that would have, taken away from anything about him. And I'm sure he's going to go back next year, and it might be his last year in the league, and he would never, ever ride off into the sunset. Like, he's going to make it all about him. It's going to be a spectacle. It's going to be the LeBron show all year. He's going to want the Kobe send-off. Like, that's just who LeBron is. Anthony Edwards kind of did the same thing, with the coin.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know the severity of it. I don't know if that's something that got worse. But it's like,
right. Who knows? Maybe he tweaked it. Like, fine. I don't know. I don't know the Anthony Edwards story, but I know the LeBron story, and he should have been out there.
That's LeBron's story his whole life. That's just who LeBron is. Maybe he was paying homage to AD with the street clothes in the photo, but to not even wear the freaking uniform, like, for the photos, like, it was a joke. But again, that's who LeBron is. That's who he'll always be. So I don't have that much else there.
Well, okay. So if you want to talk about the jerseys, I did like the jerseys for the team that the Celtics that Jason and Jalen were on. The like kind of light blue teal looking ones with the All-Star down the right side vertically. Those were sick. And I actually saw the game worn jerseys. They were being auctioned off after the game. And like, I don't have the kind of money to bid on those, but I was like, ooh, like I kind of want one of those. Like, those are sick. Like I said, don't have anywhere near the amount of money.
You should get LeBron just fresh out of the box.
Yeah. I don't even know if they were selling his. Could they call it game worn? Because I don't think he ever put it on.
Should auction off the polo he was wearing.
But getting back to Jason and Jalen, they did have some cool moments, and Tatum ended up with the last bucket to win the whole thing. Steph takes home the MVP despite Tatum having better numbers. That was probably in the bag. Being in San Francisco, I don't think there was really, unless Steph didn't score, like he was probably going to get it
if he was close. Yeah,
right. And I do understand, like, the numbers were. It's not like it was a blowout for Tatum. Like, I would have probably given it to Tatum, but that's because I'm a Celtics fan, like whatever. But I don't know. Did you have any other thoughts about the All-Star game itself? Did you watch the whole thing? Did you?
Mercifully. But it was, I guess, better than years past because there were guys competing, and especially in that first one, like when they were playing Canada's squad of the G Leaguers and like rising stars and stuff. I'm like, playing Tatum, Brown, and like all the vets against those people, I'm like, you might get a Celtics CTE game where you have just going through the motions because like these guys aren't on our level. And like, Dame
said something about that right before the final game. They were asking him about how they wanted to, or how they felt going into the finals. They were like, we did not want to be the team to lose to those guys because like they're not on our level.
Yeah, and then you go into the final game and they just kick the crap out of the other team, and it's like Tatum was actually on fire until you got to the not halftime, but like the halfway through the first quarter, essentially stoppage. But like Tatum, if that game kept going like that, like he might have scored like 20 points that game. Well, he did. But like he might have won MVP because if he just kept going. But like after that, it was the Steph Curry show, and he hit some tough shots, and it's like he made it close enough where it was hard not to give it to him. If it was like Tatum had 25 and Curry had 6, it'd be kind of hard to like justify it at that point. But like because of the aesthetic of how he did it at the end, and then like he was kind of like the second half of the game carrying away, and it was in San Francisco. I was hoping for Tatum, but I'm like I knew they were giving it to Steph. So we ever get an All-Star game in Boston, maybe that's when Tatum will get it again.
Yeah, maybe we can have the favor returned. I mean, Steph hit that one like just straight up half quarter that was just like a regular jump shot for him. I was like, this is just dumb. Like,
no, he's ridiculous. But yeah, they should have had him doing the half court thing where Dame was doing it against the Mr. Beast challenge.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, that actually kind of got me excited at the end though, because he hit it right as the buzzer went. Like as far as like a visual performance, like that was like perfect timing for him to hit that shot. But,
I know you can't script things like that, but like it felt scripted. Like,
yeah, I mean, like unless the thing was on like a magnet, like on that last
I know,
shot, just like
it's not possible, but like that's how it felt.
And especially because they're like, okay, this is the end of it. Like otherwise, they're gonna cut to a commercial. Like it was just perfect timing.
Yeah, it was. Anyway, I think I'm pretty tired of the All-Star game in general. So let's get back to the Celtics. The home stretch for the Celtics, the rest of the year, what are you expecting for them, and how do you see the rest of this year playing out?
So unlike last year, where A, they were trying to prove something, but B, they ended up having like pretty much a month from when they clinched everything until the end of the season where they can just really like give guys ample amount of rest. They're not going to have that luxury. They're most likely not going to finish first. Their floor, barring something completely catastrophic, is going to be the 3rd seed. So they're looking at the 2 or the 3. I have no fear of going into New York for a series. I still don't think they're going to have the Knicks pass them. The Knicks have a harder schedule. I think Tibbs going to eventually burn everybody out like he always does. The Celtics, I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to finish 2nd. Just continue to build momentum. You know, I think they're going to really start locking it now. Not that they haven't before the break, winning 7 out of 8. But I think they're just going to really lock in because now you're kind of, okay, now you're past the trade deadline. Now you're past the All-Star break. Now you're looking at like mid-February already. And in like a week or so, it's going to be March. And then it's like you see kind of the finish line and you see what you're preparing for with the postseason and getting guys right and staying healthy. And knock on wood, Porzingis can just, stay healthy until the postseason. But just continuing to build the right habits. They'll still experiment a little bit with lineups, seeing what works, what doesn't. Seeing how Torrey Craig continues to play for them to see if he can get rotation minutes come postseason time. But I just, I think we're in the part of the year now where Tatum turns into a god, and it already kind of started with, the Knicks game and then the Miami game. So just continuing, I think I looked at like the schedule and I just looked at like, yeah, it's 60 wins, of course, is still possible. But I was just looking, I'm like, if they get to 57, I don't see how and I really don't see like them dropping below 3, but honestly, even 2, like just looking at the schedule. So I think they're going to end up in the 57 to 60 win range. And they end up with the 2 seed, and then just kind of watch how the rest of everything else unfolds in the Eastern Conference. But I will say, RIP to the Celtics Heat rivalry. Like even being in that arena, it just doesn't feel the same at all anymore.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, obviously the team's somewhat different now. You don't have Jimmy Butler. You have Andrew Wiggins wearing number 22, which Riley could not give to him fast enough. But just from from a fan base, there just doesn't feel like the vitriol is there. Like, yeah, they don't like the Celtics, but it's more kind of like, oh, this is just frustrating. Like, this team's still great, and like now we took a step back. Like, yeah, the dark cloud of Jimmy Butler is gone now, but like they just don't have the same ceiling. Like, I would not be afraid of that team at all in a playoff series. Yeah, like it's an NBA team. Like if you mess around, like you have, guys that can play on that team, you can lose a game, maybe 2, but like I just don't see any way possible, short of like a Tatum injury, that team could like upset you. So, that rivalry is kind of done, and it's, we had a good run with it, but yeah, that's kind of where I stand with this. Just get ready for the postseason. Just hope for no major injuries, and we're not going to do it. Tibbs doesn't burn our guys out, so I trust Joe with that. And with Brad, hopefully getting Tatum to sit a couple times between now and the end of the year.
Yeah, I with the Heat thing, it is sad because I'm one that would like to hold the theory that like it's not just about Jimmy Butler, but now he's gone, and it just feels like the air is out of that. And maybe the air is just out of that franchise as a whole right now. They're probably not expecting a whole lot. They're going to need to retool after this season, and maybe next year they'll be able to be a little bit more of a threat. But yeah, I don't see much of a threat coming from them right now. So and the games that the Celtics have coming up. Oh, actually, sorry. The other thing I was going to bring up was you brought up Torrey Craig. We haven't even talked about him. I said this on my feed last week or whenever it was that he finally started playing. He gives me like Eddie House vibes. Like I think it's just because he like wears the headband and has the high socks and all that stuff. And he can bomb some threes if you need him to. But
or James Posey from 08.
Yep. And somebody said the exact same thing in my replies. I was like, I'm feeling Eddie House with this. And they were like, what about James Posey? I was like, yeah, that's.
So then who's our PJ Brown that we're going to pick up for our 15th roster spot? We got to figure that one out.
I don't know. But anyway, I'm pretty excited to see what Torrey can bring to the team. I mean, I do think they needed a little bit of a spark, and I'm hoping that he can be that. I shouldn't say they needed a spark. They could use one. You know what I mean? Like, he's somebody that hopefully just gives them a little bit more energy. He'll be motivated to, just earn his spot and maybe be part of a championship run. So it should be pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to see what they do at the 15th spot. If they end up converting, like Matt Peterson or somebody else to that spot, if they were to go pick somebody up. But I think short of a major injury, like now, so to transition to this, Lonnie Walker, now a Philadelphia 76er. Yeah. If you would have said 24 hours ago, Lonnie Walker is going to be playing in the next Celtics game, like all excited, like, yes, we got him back. But since that's not going to be happening, maybe he actually will get some time, especially with McCain out for Philly, that he can come in and, he's a microwave scorer. So kind of ashamed to see him go there, especially since we get to see him in the first game. And I'm sure he'd want some sort of redemption against us for essentially just like getting rid of him. But I don't think if your expectations are high as a Celtics fan for that final roster spot to be someone that's going to like move the needle, it's not happening. Like, we couldn't sign anybody of a buyout market anyways of substance, since anybody making above the mid-level of 12.8, we wouldn't be eligible to sign. But I think the team is who it is. Like, if we're needing somebody from the buyout market to move the needle for us, then we're in rough shape. So I don't foresee that being a situation anyway. So.
Well, so with Lonnie Walker, do you think he's going to play on Thursday? Because I mean, he's over in Europe. Is he going to come over and?
Oh, that's a good thought.
I don't know. I think it might be a minute before he actually plays.
Yeah, that's right. That likely is the case. So that looks like a guy who could just wake up and just play ball as far as like scoring. He's a natural scorer. Yeah. But today's Tuesday, like, unless he was already over here and like expecting to do something, but he had to come over here. He still has to pass a physical. I'm sure like you want to implement him into, I mean, that's chaos in Philly anyways. They'd probably just be like, just go in the game and do something like, but I don't think, yeah, you're right. We probably don't see him this week.
And the intel even just from this morning was that he was going to finish the season in the EuroLeague. And then 4 hours later, it comes out that he ends up signing the 2-year deal with Philly, which just totally flipped everything that we thought on his head. So I don't think that maybe even he was expecting to get that deal. I think what probably happened was they put that out there to, and I don't have any sources. They put that out there to say, well, nobody wants us, so let's just finish over here. And then Philly was like, wait, nobody wants you? We want you. So that was a pretty good move by them, I think. I mean, he's a good player, and obviously we've been on the Lonnie agenda for as long as we've been doing this podcast. But anyway, so all right, now looking forward to some of the games coming up this week. I think if you're looking forward to the games this week, any of the games this week the most, I think it's got to be the Knicks game. I know they obviously just kind of blew them out of the water, but as we mentioned in the standings, that they're kind of hot on the Celtics' heels right now because they are 36-18. I think it would be really good for the Celtics to kind of bury them. And both teams are 8-2 in their last 10 games. And if I have to bet on one team over the other to keep up that pace, it's definitely the Celtics. As you said, I think there's much more of an implosion factor with the Knicks. Like I would expect that there's more likelihood for them to come back to earth than it would be for the Celtics.
I think it's a mental thing with the Knicks against us as well. It's hard to beat a team all 4 times. Last year we played them 5 times and we only lost to them like last week of the season when we were just going through the motions. We had guys out there just to fulfill like the national TV game, like you have to play people things, but we weren't really just going through the motions. Like, it's going to be hard to beat them all 4 times, but the only thing is like you get a mental edge on that team. It's just like they really start to doubt, like, can we beat this team? Like, yeah, they're gonna you probably trust the Knicks more against a team missing players or against an under like a crappier opponent because the Knicks are going to take it more seriously. But the Celtics are just in that team's head, and I think they're in Cleveland's head a little bit. Once you going down that road as well. But yeah, I mean, if they lose to them, it's not going to be the end of the world. Of course, Twitter will, well, the Knicks, they're going to beat the Celtics in the playoffs if we don't beat them all 4 times this year. Or, then they'll be like, oh, Mitchell Robinson wasn't playing. He's going to be the difference maker. But I'm looking forward to that. I know this is a couple of weeks away, but the Oklahoma City game when they come to Boston, I'm definitely looking forward to that because that was a game where it's close for 3 quarters and then they just got completely outmanned in the 4th quarter. So I'm looking, in Boston, potential finals preview. I'm definitely looking forward to that one, but we got 3 weeks away for that.
Yeah, that one's we'll obviously talk about that one more when we get closer to it. But getting into actually what you were just talking about, the fact that game's at home, the last thing I have on my list here is the one thing I wanted to talk about. The Celtics have not been as good at home. They're 17-10 at home and 22-6 on the road. So where do you think that's coming from? What do you think that is?
I think it's a relaxed mentality. Especially against inferior opponents at home. It's like you're sleeping in your own bed. You're just kind of chilling. They're not a young team that like needs to feed off the crowd to be successful. They actually are the opposite. They're, the road dogs. Like they like it when it's just them against the world. Granted, almost half of every arena is going to have Celtics fans. So it's not like it's that hostile of an environment. But I just think it's kind of that like pack mentality when they're on the road where it's like, okay, it's us against everybody and they lock in more. Whereas at home, they're just like they're way too relaxed, and especially they look across like Anthony Davis isn't out there, Luka's not on this team anymore. Like they're looking at a team just decimated by injuries, or look, it's the Pelicans. Like I can just go through the motions. I can do step back threes all game, or just I don't really need to lock in on defense. We're just better. Then you start getting momentum for the other teams, and they just can't shake it. So I think come playoff time they'll be better. But last year, where did their losses really come from? It was at the beginning of a series, like. It was game 2 of the first 2 series where they would just blow out the opponent in game 1. They got a little too comfortable. And I think that's all it is comfort. They get too comfortable at home and they lock in more on the road. So I don't think they're going to go undefeated at home in the postseason. I think they're going to lose a game. Maybe not the first round, but possibly as soon as the first round, they're going to lose a game or 2 at home that are just going to piss you off this postseason where everyone's going to get, run away with their, like, see, the Celtics are frauds takes, and they're going to come and shove it right down your throat on the road, in a big game 3, game 4, like to take a 3-1 lead back to Boston, just like last year. So I trust them more on the road. It sucks that it is like this, but that's a big thing about a veteran team as well. Home teams feed off the crowd and the energy at home much more, which is why they're more successful at home. Veteran-laden teams, they're usually generally better on the road, and they feed off the negative environment. So I think it's going to be somewhat similar to last year. I don't think they may give me all 5-game series, but I think they're going to take care of business on the road. And I even said it. I think they're going to win the championship this year, and they're going to close it out on the road this year.
That would be nice. That would be nice. And as you said, I kind of hope it's just the comfort factor, and that that these are things that can be turned around. I don't really know what else it would be. I can't really see why they would not be as good at home as they are on the road, other than maybe just I don't know, feeding off that. Maybe it's more actually that they just do feed off that negative environment on the road, and like it could just be kind of the flip side of that. But
it's like why they won all game 1s. Like they're more focused for the game 1. It's like game 2, they start slipping back into like that relaxed comfort mentality where they're like, okay, like we just blew that team out. We can just continue to do the same. And and there's adjustments on the other side. I'm sure Joe Mazzulla has adjustments, as whether or not they follow through with it. So I don't know what it is, especially with how dominant they were last year at home. But they started slipping a little bit in the playoffs, even though I think they went like 9-2 or something like that at home in the postseason. It felt worse because of the 2 losses and the game against Indiana that they almost lost the first game. So we'll see. But I would like to think they've learned from it, and they're a more experienced team now, that they won't fall into those same traps. Not that they're going to go undefeated in the postseason, but that they're going to be more aware and conscious of the things and the habits that they have that cause that.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, you got anything else?
No, I'm ready for the second half to start. It's been a long week without basketball. Like I really think about it at first, and then you had like the All-Star weekend, but now we're getting back into like I'm ready for some basketball. There's one game tomorrow night. I think the Lakers play, and then Thursday we get right back into the swing of things. And we have a lot of nationally televised games, a lot of them coming up. So it'd be nice to see.
Yeah. Yep.
Now that Doris Burke has moved her love affair from Joel Embiid to Jason Tatum, just in the fact that Tatum actually plays games. So now you listen to her just like drool over him as opposed to the opponent. So I guess that's nice. But
we'll take it. We'll take it any way we can get it. So, all right. Well, I think this has been excellent. I think we got plenty of fired up for a lot of this. I know I did for the All-Star game stuff, but I know we'll be back to talk about these games that are coming up, and we'll spend plenty of time leading into the playoffs, looking at what the potential seedings are going to look like and the series they're going to have to play in round one and what the path's going to look like to try to get out of the East again. All that will kind of come over the next few weeks. But for now, I think we're going to go ahead and get out of here. And so for myself and Alex, we will catch you guys next time.
Ends tonight here. It's over. Time to say it again, Boston. Anything's possible. Banner number 18 has been secured. The Celtics are NBA champions.